Hello and happy Thursday, everyone. I'm so happy to be joined today on Ask the Experts with Dr. Alexandra Solomon. I have worked and had the pleasure of connecting with and working with Dr. Solomon quite a few times in the last few years. I absolutely adore and love Dr. Solomon, and I'm so happy to have her. So I'm going to join her to our chat, and you can ask your questions of Alexandra Solomon. Hello, sweetheart.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Oh, I'm very well, thank you. I'm so happy to be joined with you for the next half an hour.
I know. I love all of our conversations.
Thank you for making time, Dr. Solomon. Those of you that do not know Dr. Solomon, you are internationally recognized as one of the most trusted voices in the world of relationships. You have your framework you've created called Relational Self Awareness that has reached millions of people around the world. That is for sure. You are a couples therapist, a speaker, an author, and professor. I love the fact that you are teaching a course to university students called Marriage 101 and building lasting partnerships, relationships. I mean, I wish that I took that course in university. Like, what an amazing skill set you are giving these people. So, thank you for giving us your time today and sharing your wisdom. And we're going to dive into these amazing
I
questions.
know. Well, one of my favorite things about spending time with you, especially in this format when we do a Q&A format, is your community that you have built now over how many years? How many years have
Yeah,
you
we're
been?
coming into our fourth year.
Oh, like your community just asks the best questions. So one of my favorite, there's a number of things I enjoy doing with
Yeah.
you, and one ways I enjoy spending time with you, but doing Q&A from your community is one of my favorites because your audience is just really thoughtful and sophisticated, and I feel like we can like really get into
Yes.
the good stuff when you
We,
ask
we,
them.
we were given some amazing questions that we're going to dive into. And for those of you that are live with us right now, please submit your questions because I'm going to be watching the chat and I'm going to ask Dr. Solomon your
Good,
questions. This is your opportunity.
good.
So the first question is a doozy. Do you have any advice for rebuilding trust after adultery?
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is it's a huge question. It's a tender question. It's a complicated question. Um, it is, I think the first thing to say is that rebuilding trust after adultery is a choice. There's not a better or a worse thing to do. I have known, after having done couples therapy for as many years as I've done it, I've seen some amazing stories of couples building something from the ashes that you can't even imagine. I've seen couples part ways with a kind of grace and care and say, like, I see you, I see your humanity, I know you are more than your worst behavior, and I can't continue to participate in this. So I think in any conversation about rebuilding trust after infidelity, there needs to be just a lot of space for this idea that there's not better and worse ways of doing it. And every story of infidelity is like every story of relationship. It is so profoundly contextualized in so many variables. And what we know from the research is that the key ingredient to rebuilding trust after infidelity is for the person who did harm to just have a big, wide, open, patient, vulnerable, caring heart. And that's hard to do because every person I've ever met who has, cheated on their partner didn't do it because they're a sociopath. They did it because of some conglomeration of things: unhealed childhood trauma, pain that couldn't be named in the relationship, years of feeling neglected and untended to, feel it, whatever, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's not like I did this in order to hurt you, but goddamn, it hurts, right? So both those
Yes.
things are true. And so it's a lot to ask the person who did harm to stay open, to stay patient, because they are in their own, dark night of the soul and dealing with their own shame and having to do their own deep inner work. But that's a key, because the only way the person who's been hurt can even put like the tip of the baby toe back into the water is to know that the person who's done harm is like, I see you. I see the badassery it takes to even entertain the possibility of trusting me again. So those are some initial thoughts I have right off the bat, but I wonder what you want to pick up on in terms of that. We could go the whole time with that question.
Oh yes, but the piece of this that I was also like thinking of when you're talking is like the forgiveness piece, on both sides. Is the compassion that I want to forgive, right? If let's say the choice is to stay together. I want to forgive, but forgiveness, oh my gosh, like you can't even predict the time on that, right? Right? And that's for both people to understand
That's right.
that there's no timeline on forgiveness. And it's like, I'm not ready to, or I don't want to right now. And that's okay. Like, I don't know. I'm just kind of imagining on where you would be at with that.
Yeah.
So,
Well, yes. I mean, it is. There is for sure that question of right, because I mean, certainly a couple could stay together without forgiveness. It's just a white knuckle staying together, right? It is a staying together out of duty, obligation, and kind of gritting one's teeth, which I think that folks who are drawn to your work and my work, that's not what those are not the kinds of relationships that we would stay in. So staying in, or entertaining the idea of staying in, is entertaining the journey of forgiveness, which is exactly what you're saying. It's not on a time. I mean, trauma has zero F's to give about like dates on a calendar or time on a clock. Like the process takes what the process takes. And it doesn't mean that month 7 looks the same as month 1, but it certainly means that the one who's done harm has to resist the urge to be like, are we done? Are we done? Are you done? And the one who's been harmed has to also like kind of tolerate that, like, oh God, it's still here. And it's hard to carry pain, but carrying pain while engaging in a relational process is different than carrying pain alone. So I want any couple who's endeavoring to do this to have a really wonderful couples therapist in their corner. It's why I created an e-course you can find on my website that is it's a supplement. It's an adjunct to a couples therapy relationship. It's called Can I Trust You Again? And it's lots and lots of resources for couples who are considering this or who are in a process of rebuilding trust. So that can be I think it's really nice for a couple on this journey to have lots of things they're triangulating in, because it's so heavy and so big to carry alone.
Yes, I love that. Is the fear of abandonment possible to develop during the relationship following numerous difficulties, or is that still an internal issue for the individual?
I mean, right there. That's like quintessential real love ready stuff, right? Well,
I read this question and I'm like, please help me, Alexandra, because I don't know how to answer that one.
Oh, I love it. What a great question. Right. So this person is saying, I have a fear of abandonment. And my hypothesis is I've developed a fear of abandonment in the context of my intimate partnership because of a series of experiences I've had in this partnership. But I'm relationally self-aware enough to be careful I don't want to blame my partner for causing my abandonment wound. I want to make sure that I'm owning the stuff part of it, for sure. So I think for sure, this is the whole thing about attachment work, and the research around attachment is the initial conceptualization of attachment was that we have an attachment style or an attachment orientation by 18 months old, locked and loaded. That's our attachment style for the rest of our lives. Well, research has found that it is quite malleable, that attachment, that with couples therapy, for example, emotion-focused couples therapy, people can move from insecure attachment orientations, whether that's avoidant or anxious, into secure attachment. So our attachment style, our attachment orientation is malleable and develop and can change and shift in the context of a therapeutic relationship.
Right.
Beautiful. We love that. What we don't love is the opposite is also true then, that one can go from, so I think this person maybe is like, I think I had pretty secure attachment in my family of origin, in my early experiences, but this romantic relationship is kicking my ever-loving booty, and I think I'm developing insecure attachment in the context of this relationship. That makes total sense to me. I can see that happening because of the power of relationships. And so I think that I want this person to be a bit less concerned about having an exact diagnostic formulation of when they develop this abandonment fear or abandonment wound, and more orientation towards kind of lining up next to her partner and being like, okay, here it is. Like, let's look at the fact that I'm developing an abandonment wound. I'm not saying it's your fault, but I'm definitely saying something's going on here where I'm finding myself more anxious than ever about losing you or losing, I'm not quite sure what their, what the nature of that
Yeah.
abandonment wound is, but I think it's a really beautiful question to be asking, in that relationship, bringing to a couples therapist. So,
Yes. Wow.
yeah.
Wow. I think that's fantastic. Because of course it could be both.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like that's what you say, both and,
Both
right?
and I
Or
love
not
both
and
and.
or. It's both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it may be, by the way, another hypothesis would be that you had like almost like a latent abandonment
Mm,
wound that you were kind of carrying with you, but it was the process of being as vulnerable as you've been, as invested as you've been in this romantic relationship that's bringing it forward full force. Which again, it doesn't really matter the exact perfect origin story of it. What matters more
mm,
now is how do you create a relationship where that wound can be tended to and healed and works, right here, right now.
right. What do we do when your love languages don't align? How do you ask for what you need? And what should you do if there's no change?
Mm, yeah. I I mean, the idea of love languages, I think, has taken off in the way that it has because it's just such a rich, like tangible
Mm,
construct. We can really it helps us like do that thing of imagining love as a verb. Like we know that love is lived in those interactions. I think that's what the love languages framework has really given us, is like a way of talking about, here's how I feel most loved by you. So I'm not at all concerned when people partner up with different love languages. Like that to me does not feel like at all a poor prognostic indicator. I think it's one of many, many differences that we bring into relationships. It's what I love about, the love languages is not a love hierarchy. There's no
right.
like better worse. It's just a palette, if you will. So I think what this person's saying though is like, my partner knows that I love words of affirmation and they know it. I've told them that. I've given them sample scripts of what I would love to hear, and I'm not hearing it.
Mm,
So I certainly validate. I mean, that example came to mind because that is my story. I am a words of affirmation girl, and my husband is like, "Oh, really? But look at all these acts of service. I have
yes.
many, many acts of service
Yes.
for you." And I'm like, "No, just talk to me about me."
Yeah.
So I think it is neat. My wish for this person would be that they could just kind of hold that frustration in the larger context of the relationship. How are you loved? How does this person show their love for you? And can you, what is your willingness to stretch and sort of let yourself feel loved in that way that is their
Mm,
native language? Like, could
yeah.
that be love? Could that be a way that you love them, is you love them by allowing them to love you in the way that is most authentic for them.
Right.
Um,
So in the case with you and Todd, he is an acts of service person. Like he wants to show you in his through his actions that he loves you. And you're wanting the words of affirmation. Like that would be like your top love language. What you're saying is like it's all about, it's for both of you to understand that about each other, but also for you to be looking at him going like he's showing me in all these ways
yeah.
how he loves me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And having other people in my life who can shower me with words, right?
Right.
That's why it takes a village to love me. Like I
Yes.
need, I need
Well,
to be loved by many sources.
yes,
So
I really like that, Alexandra. Actually, that's what I was thinking about when you were saying this. It's like you are probably getting that validation and those words from like your best friend, your like right people in your life that are actually like praising you and like giving you those words of affirmation. So you're getting that love and that validation from other places, which is perfect.
yes,
Yeah, I like
yes,
it.
yes, for sure. And the last thing on that is I can completely see what I also want this person to be on the lookout for is the way that this becomes a cycle in and of itself. It's like, why don't you give me what I want? Well, why don't you accept what I give? Yeah, but why don't you give me what I want? Yeah, but why can't you just accept, so I want that person to also really start to notice, are the two of you locked in a cycle where the more you're saying, give me love in the way I want to give it, the more they're saying, but look at all the ways I am showing you love, right? So that becomes, so if you've got that cycle, then is neither your the problem is neither your insistence nor their stubbornness. The problem is the cycle. So
Okay.
that would be a shift, is like, stop fighting your partner and start fighting the cycle.
Right. Right. I like that. What do you do when you are not sure where you stand in a relationship? Do you just come out and ask, or do you wait and see where the relationship goes?
You know who I'm channeling here is our very favorite Sean Galanos, Love
Oh,
Drive.
it's about communication.
Because what would Sean Galliano say? Love Drive guy. He'd be like, "Are you fucking kidding me? You ask." Like
Exactly.
I feel
You
like that
have
is
to
like
ask.
that's his zone of genius. Is like, especially, I feel like a lot of his crew. You're having him come speak at this year's
Yes.
In Bloom Summit, right?
Yes.
Um,
He's going to give us a lot of communication skills, tools, scripts on how
totally.
to say things in such a direct but kind way.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that is what I mean. I think embedded in the question is the answer. No, I don't want you. I don't want you waiting around. And the reason I don't want you waiting around, it's less about kind of like the self-abandonment part of that, which I also don't love. I don't love that. But I really don't love the idea of you waiting around for the other one to say where you guys stand, because you're not helping the relationship. When you withhold, when you bite your tongue, when you squish yourself down to not make the other person uncomfortable, it's about what you're doing to the relationship. You're not giving the relationship the kind of like stretch and experience of having difficult conversation or having bringing
Right.
truth. You can bring truth with with kindness. You don't have to like get in their face and point your finger and demand. No, you can bring it with kindness, and you can bring it with enthusiasm. Like I like this. I like what we're doing here. I would love to figure out, what are we calling it? How are you feeling about it? Where might it be going? Like, I think that conversation can be really like upbeat and exciting and lively. I mean, scary for sure, but you are basically inviting them into a creative, collaborative dialogue. It's neither your decision nor their decision who you guys are to each other. It's the two of you together. So maybe the reframe for you is about, by you asking the question or you initiating the conversation, you're doing the relationship a favor. So,
Right.
um, I think it's really important. I mean, how can vulnerability how can intimacy take root without some measure of clarity? Now, we can't, we don't ever have 1,000,000,000% clarity and promise, even when people are married. That's not it's a forever promise, but we don't know how things are going to unfold. But certainly with no definitional clarity, it is hard to expect for you to be open and present in the way that you likely want to
Right.
be as a partner.
Right. Right.
What do you think?
I completely agree with you. I think it's as much as it's sometimes difficult to have these conversations, they're so important. And you're gonna, otherwise you're walking around aimlessly going like, I hope he's into me or she's into me, you know?
Yeah.
Let's just wait and see. Well, no. How about like, right? I'm all about clarity.
Yeah, and I think there's a little bit of like, get your Beyonce music going, and like know that if you're liking them, they're liking you too. So
Yeah.
you're not making something up out of nothing. Like, you are liked and you like, and so what a cool thing it is to be brave enough to be like, okay, let's talk about this, because it's kind of fun, right? Like, we're
Yeah.
enjoying this. Let's talk about it.
But you know
So it's not a
what? Okay, I'm just gonna give you a little personal story here because
go.
I've been dating a little bit. And I went on a date a couple of nights ago with this man. This was our third date. And actually, the date was going great. I really like in all measures. Like, we're having great conversation, sitting next to each other, kind of cuddling and whatever. But guess what? He turns to me at the end of the evening, Alexandra, and he says, "You know what, Robin? I've been trying to get there, with you, and I just need to be honest that I'm not attracted to you." Okay. The reason I'm sharing this is because I was shocked. Like, it was like I wasn't expecting that at all. Like, all signs are
You're
pointing
like,
to this is
but are you
progression.
looking at this? Are you seeing? I'm sorry.
I'm
What are
not
you
talking
looking at?
about. No, I wasn't. I was shocked because the
Yes.
behavior was
Well,
showing me
yes.
different. The
That's right.
actions, right? But the words. So I just got up and left. I said, "Okay, well, I'm going to go now." And I
I guess
beelined it for the
this is it.
door.
Oh,
So it was harsh. The delivery was harsh, okay, but it was very clear So I didn't need any more clarity
Nope.
than that, and I was out of there. But I actually I've had a couple days to kind of decompress and think about it, and I'm glad that he was honest.
Yeah,
Like, why would the hell? Like, I don't want to be with somebody that's not on the same page.
that's right. That's
As
right.
hard as that
Absolutely.
was to hear, it was good.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, honey. Oh my Lord. I mean, I hope that this man is watching and you are just
Rejection
realizing
is
what you
protection, right,
walked
Alexandra?
away from. Yes, that's right. Rejection is protection. And also, like the other thing is when he said, I'm not attracted to you, he was not making any declaration about your attractiveness. He was not saying anything about your worth or your worthiness. And
No.
you actually will never now know the constraints that live inside of him that have to do with his own self-doubt, that have to do with his own, tender heart recovery process, So we don't, when he said that, he was saying actually really nothing about you and something about his own,
Right.
whatever is going on inside
Right.
of him.
Right.
So then your work, as you're saying, like you've been decompressing for a few days, your work is to hold that space between disappointment and shame, to take the disappointment and not let it like veer into shame or somehow that this was commentary on anything besides his own readiness, which is
Yeah.
like, that's disappointing.
Yeah.
That's disappointing.
Yeah. So next question is, how do I get over my divorce?
Mm.
This is a hard one. I'm going through a divorce right now. I'm
Okay, well,
kidding. Same
you
time.
tee it up then.
Yeah. I think
Yeah,
it's a process. It's a process.
it is. You've had have you had Kate Anthony on the
Yeah.
show yet?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, she's got, hers is, I think she's a really wise and holistic, guide around divorce. I have a lot of respect for her work. She's really practical, logistical, wise. So I think that like that's an element, like part of it is like resourcing yourself because
Yes.
there's those two tracks, right? There's like the freaking process and then there's the emotions. And I think they are tied together. Like as you feel
Mm-hmm.
competent in your process, that helps you with the emotions, and as you are tending to your emotions it helps you, but there's just, I'm kind of framing it that way as just like both those elements are so real. Research, some of the first research around divorce, Mavis Hetherington did this research in the 90s. One thing she found across the board when she talked to people who are going through divorce is what they described as like, I don't feel like me, like this like not me feeling, which I think speaks to how much relationships do become part of our identity, not because we're weak or silly or foolish, but because that is the power of relationships, is they really do create a shift in terms of our own self identity, how we define like our own self concept. So I think part of the pain of divorce is the pain of not feeling like yourself. That is painful, to not feel like yourself. And so to be tender with your process and to know that it's not forever, right? The not me feeling isn't a forever feeling, but the you that emerges, the you that starts to feel familiar, isn't the same you before the marriage and isn't the same you during the divorce. It has elements of you, but it is also like it's a it's a reimagined you or a revised
Right.
you or an emergent
I
you.
really like that. I think it's understanding, like you said, being resourced and understanding the process. And like, for instance, with me, the very, for the first like 6 months, let's say, I was like full on grieving. Like it was grieving the death of a
Yeah.
relationship that you like, and grief is real. Nobody really talks about how deep grief is in the divorce process. Like nobody died, but it's the death of a relationship, and it's very, very, very
Yeah.
painful. And all those stages of grief, right? And like you said, it's a death and a rebirth. I do feel like there's like this reemergence coming, but it takes time.
Mm-hmm. It takes time, and it's got facets too, right? There's the facet that's about your partner who's becoming your ex-partner. There's facets about yourself. There's facets about your journey that got you into the marriage in the first place. Like there's just so many different facets that warrant attention. But I think, yeah, I mean, I think that grief lens is it's just essential because if we don't frame it as grief, then we just feel like sort of like unmoored, or at worse, like crazy. Like, why is it feeling like this? Well, it's feeling like this because, as you're saying, it's the death of a relationship, it's the death of a past, it's the death of a present, and it's the death of an imagined
Right.
future. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Mm.
Oh, this is a good one. Do you have any advice for dealing with different sexual pasts? I had casual sex and my partner only had conscious sex. He struggles with my past.
Yeah. That's a great question. I mean, the thing I love about this question is there is not a damn thing this person can do about their past. Like, they
Yeah.
had casual sexual experiences. And so the most important thing is for the person asking the question to resist any urge to explain or defend or minimize or apologize for her past.
Yes.
Right? Because because what she's, I think that she's a she. Were there genders on either of those people?
Nope. Nope.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
sorry. I don't know if it's I don't know if it's a she. It's a he that's struggling with it. So
He's struggling.
maybe yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, right. So the thing I don't want our Real Love Ready member to do is apologize, because the more our member apologizes, the more he, because we know it's a he, the more he is going to feel clear that this is scary, it is problematic, it is pain, it is shameful, it is going to get in their way. Like, he's got stories in his head
Mm-hmm.
about whatever it is, whether it's a blend of envy, internalized, if our Real Love Ready member is female, then he's got internalized, sort of like Madonna whore dichotomy stuff going on from patriarchy,
Yeah.
whatever that is. But it's really, the work here is for our member to hold steady in the truth of their journey so that he has the chance to examine his stories and his fears. It's quite fascinating, right? He's got
It
a
is.
really cool opportunity to look at his own journey, why their different journey triggers him. So as long as if our Real Love Ready member apologizes, rationalizes, minimizes, then he can't do his work around it.
Yes. Wow. That's good. That's really, really good.
Mhm.
Oh, I love it. All right. I love the sex questions. How can I ask my partner who's male to be more dominant and passionate in bed?
Hmm. I would be, well, I first want the person asking the question to get clear on what that would mean to them for their male partner to be more dominant. Like, what would that mean? What would that allow? What would that allow you to bypass? What question would it answer for you? I think that I could imagine a scenario where if he's really dominant, then I don't have to take as many risks. I'm just in response to his dominance, that there's kind of an opportunity to feel perhaps a little bit less vulnerable. I don't have to be quite so, it's not, the exchange is less mutual. All I'm doing really is kind of fielding what's inbound, and that can be a little bit like emotionally safer. So just maybe noticing that. I think just like being curious about that desire, so that as you try to bring that desire for him to be more dominant, so that when that comes into fruition, he's really clear on why, like what his dominance does for you. Like, I want him to kind of understand it, so that then if he is able to, as he plays with expressing a bit more dominant energy, he really gets that good feeling of like, shit, I'm like giving my partner what my partner wants. So the more you can get clear on why, what is it that you are wanting around his dominant energy? And as you can kind of like articulate that, like, here's why I would love it. Here's how it makes me feel. Here's what I would love for us to play with a little bit. The more you can get clear about why you would like that, the more it's an invitation to your partner rather than a critique to your partner, right? You're really setting them up to be like, okay, so I don't know if you can or how this would be for you, but the more you kind of like unleash and fill up the space, the more I'm going to really respond. I would love that. So it's really framing it as like, it gets out of the whole realm of critique, which we're all so sensitive to when it comes to sex. Like sexual feedback is really freaking tender. And so I want
Yes.
that feedback to be grounded in like, I love this. I love what we're doing. Here's why I think I might want a bit more of, this from you.
I love that. Just great. Oh my gosh. Every time we spend time together, I'm just like lit up. I'm so happy that you shared your time with us. Thank you so much, Dr. Solomon.
That went so quickly. That was like the quickest
I know
30 minutes
it goes
ever.
so quickly.
Yeah.
Well, I hope we'll do this. We are going to do this again. And
Good.
I thank you again. And I also wanted to say, I also would invite you to our summit. I don't know if you're able to come to Vancouver, April 12th, 13th, 14th,
No,
join us virtually.
I'm officiating a wedding in Mexico that weekend.
Oh, good for you. Oh, that's going to be beautiful.
I know. How
Wonderful.
Yes,
Well,
I'm
those of
wondering if
you
I
that
can.
are live with us, I would love it if you could join us virtually in Vancouver at our summit in Bloom. It's April 12th, 13th, 14th, or come to Vancouver. And I know you were a speaker last year, and it's a beautiful event and a lovely. I love the fact that it's just all the energy with the thousands of people that came last year, virtually and in person, and we learned together, and it's quite an opportunity. So
Yeah,
hope to see you then.
let me just stay there for a moment, because you guys, Robin, if you're joining this conversation because if this is your first time getting to know Robin, or if you just need a little bit more kind of understanding, what Robin creates is really unique. Like, I've been in this field for a long time, and what Robin does is incredibly professional. It's incredibly thoughtful. It's full of integrity. So when Robin creates an event, like, you want to be there. She brings together incredible speakers, and she really like sets them up to shine. So the speaker arrives, the way that Robin cares for her speakers allows them to care for their audience. And so if you're kind of looking at a few different events, this is one you really should be thinking about, the Real Love Ready Summit, because she does it beautifully, and it's a really good space. And it's, you bring together like-minded people. Like, it was so fun last year just to be schmoozing the lobby between events, because all the people are just really like open-hearted, fun, people. So,
and kind people. Yeah.
People.
Well, thank you again, Dr. Solomon.
Yeah.
Love you so much.
Bye.
Enjoy the rest of your, and thank you for joining us.
Take care.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.